Today we're going to take a look at every grenade in the game and we're going to rate them in a tier list. Now you might be asking yourself, why in the world would you make a tier list so close to the release of Witch Queen? And the reason is, it's pretty unlikely that Bungie is going to do anything to actually change the grenades themselves. That being the case, we are not going to touch anything that would buff the grenades. Any subclass related abilities or armor effects are a separate video. The grenades themselves are probably going to stay the same coming with the Witch Queen, being that those are already pretty well balanced. In fact, this tier list was relatively hard to make because of how balanced everything is. We had to get really, really picky. And even if you are a veteran of the game, there's probably some things that you don't know. For example, out of the 3 primary vortex style grenades like Vortex Grenade, Pulse Grenade, and Solar Grenade, which one deals more DPS? Well, you might be surprised to know that it's actually Pulse Grenade that just deals flat out more damage than the rest of them. You also may not know that I'm a college graduate with a degree in computer science, which is why I would like to let you know about a solid deal from the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark VPN. Surfshark operates like an internet hazmat suit and a region-changing multi-tool. We have been getting a ton of new people in our chat rooms, and with that comes a slew of malicious scam attempts. Surfshark can help protect you from some of these threats by encrypting your data and hiding your IP address. In fact, when I was just 18, I almost had my identity stolen, and the only thing I was able to trace it back to was that I frequently used public Wi-Fi, and I just wasn't protected. And if you're worried a VPN is only for the technically savvy, don't. Surfshark is incredibly easy to use. Also with Surfshark, you can have unlimited simultaneous devices. That means that even if you are on your phone or your desktop, you can use it as an app or a browser extension so you are never unprotected. Maybe you aren't worried about security, but you are in a region where certain content is restricted. Surfshark can change your region so you are never locked out of anything by anyone. Click on the link in the description below and use code TDT, like Tango Delta Tango or The Dream Team, for both 83% off as well as 3 months free. Worst case scenario, you try it, you don't like it, and you can use their 30-day money-back guarantee. Show them some support as they have shown us support. It really is a lucratively good deal they're offering you guys. Starting off our list is an absolute classic of Destiny grenades. We have the Vortex Grenade, an immediate impact damage of 20 with 25 per tick, 4 meters worth of radius on its range that'll last roughly 5 seconds, and a 1 minute and 45 second cooldown puts this solidly in C tier. You can't really go wrong with these. They're very standard issue, but there's definitely better grenades out there. These will be the benchmark of which a lot of grenades are judged by. Next up for the Void grenades is Axion bolts, and with the recent changes that came to grenades and ability cooldowns, Axion bolts are absolutely amazing within PvP. A default impact damage of 100 with a 14 meter seeking range. That means if you land this puppy within 14 meters of a target in either direction, it will send out a seeker bolt to go get them. This will last about 5 seconds, so 5 seconds of the Benny Hill theme playing while they're running away from it, and the cooldown is 1 minute and 31 seconds, which is the fastest of the Void charging grenades. This puts this up all the way to the top at S tier. Rounding out Void Walkers, we have the Scatter Grenade. The Scatter Grenade is an interesting one in that it is very inconsistent, but it's consistently better than it is consistently worse. It is possible to one-shot a Guardian with these, so these deal approximately 200 damage or so, and they have about, again because of the randomness, about a 4 meter, roughly give or take, area of effect. Can't hit targets directly with these, but it is very difficult to do, and the cooldown is 1 minute and 45 seconds, sticking this solidly in B tier. Another Destiny classic grenade is the Arcbolt grenade. These recently got a change. I wouldn't say really a buff, I wouldn't really call it a nerf, but just a change. I think these are a little bit better than they were before, but anyway, these now deal 106 damage when they impact a target. They have an 8 meter radius where they'll try to seek a target, and they have a 2 minute and 1 second cooldown, slightly longer than some of the other stuff that we've seen, but the utility as well as the damage on these stick these firmly in A tier. For our second AoE grenade on this list, we have the Pulse grenades. The initial impact damage is 50 with 80 damage per following blast. This does drop off, it does have a range to it, but this grenade is technically the highest unbuffed DPS area of denial type grenade that you can get. This has the exact same cooldown time as a Vortex grenade at 1 minute 45, bumping this above the Vortex grenade into B tier. This next grenade has gone a little under the radar for a pretty long time. I'm starting to see more people use it, so I'm thinking people are starting to realize how good this grenade really is, and that is the Storm grenades. Storm grenades have the possibility of one-shotting a Guardian, but it requires a little bit of jank. By default, most of the time you're going to be dealing 170 damage, which has about 7 to 8 meters worth of range. The cooldown on these are incredibly fast at 1 minute and 31 seconds. The wide area of effect as well as decent damage and general good crowd control tools put this solidly in A tier, arguably S tier. Coming into our first solar grenade, we have the Solar Grenade. Really on the nose there, Bungie. The impact damage is 20 with 25 damage per initial tick following, and this does cause burn, which is great because if you even just slightly hit the target with the 5-meter radius that this has, they'll continue to burn and delay their health. It has a 1 minute and 45 second default cooldown. It puts this grenade very high on the list, all the way up into S tier. This next grenade is the first sticky grenade on this list with the fusion grenades. Fusion grenades, again, got a little bit of a change. They don't deal as much damage with only 130 damage, and these are pretty damn fast, all things considered, with only 1 minute and 13 seconds to actually get another one charged by default, putting this firmly in B tier. For our first fast charging grenade, we have the Firebolt grenades. These only deal 65 damage with, again, 8 meters, just like the Arcbolts, but they charge pretty fast at only 1 minute and 4 seconds. The unfortunate thing is that this damage is so low, and it does take a little bit of a windup that a Guardian can get away from it. The only reason you're gonna really end up running these things more than likely is to run them for things like Military Well of Radiance in order to get healing grenades off, or you're trying to do something weird with Surplus. Unfortunately, they just don't do enough by themselves, putting these in D tier. On the flip side of this, despite this grenade being fast charging, the Duskfield grenade is a much better grenade overall. It provides both the utility of an area denial as well as an anti-aping circle, literally an anti-sea ape circle that you can throw down on the ground at any time. It is possible to freeze targets inside of them too, so they are encouraged to get out, although that's not going to happen that much. The initial damage is not much at only 7, and the ticks per damage is only 1, but again, that is enough to delay somebody's health regeneration, so you can stall the fight as long as you would like. And these last a little bit longer than some of the other grenades at 7 seconds, meaning you can deny a zone for even longer than you would with some of those other grenades. Because of this arguably could be an S tier, but we're going to be a little bit more conservative with this and put this in the A tier. On the flip side of stasis grenades, we have Coldsnap grenades. Poor Coldsnap grenades have been continuously kicked in its frozen nuts all the way up until Witch Queen. Hopefully these get a buff sometime soon. They deal 20 damage on impact. They are a seeking-ish type grenade. They don't really turn corners much anymore. They just kind of see where you are within 12 meters and just try to blast right towards you. The unfortunate part is that these are very easy to dodge. The only time you're really going to get some advantage out of these is if the Guardian does not know what's about to happen and they're standing still, which is a big order for a grenade, which you're looking to do some utility with. It doesn't help that these also have almost twice as long as a cooldown as the Duskfield grenade, putting these all the way down in F tier. Get your shit together, Coldsnap grenade. Come on, kid. And for a bit of a controversial pick, we have Glacier grenades. Because we're only looking at these grenades by themselves, the Glacier grenades are pretty good. If you're taking in the full consideration of everything else that comes with the kit, what they can do for like Whisper of Chains, whatever it may be, Shadow Dive combos, that sort of deal, it would be much higher on this list. But because the grenades are by themselves or what we are looking at, the Glacier grenades are very solidly C tier. They don't deal a lot of damage, they're a good crowd control tool, and the cooldown is quite long at 2 minutes and 32 seconds. Wrapping into Hunter exclusive grenades, we have Spike grenades. These are impressively powerful, and because they do a cone of damage, just like you would with a Trip Mine grenade or Lightning grenade, these can be somewhat inconsistent in how they stick to walls because geometry. These will deal 28 per tick, meaning that they are a higher DPS tool than your vortex grenades, and these share the exact same duration on their cooldown, 1 minute and 45 seconds, sticks the Spike grenade in C tier. If only it was more consistent at sticking to walls, these are a great option for DPS. Speaking of walls, we have the Void Wall grenade itself. The initial damage of the explosion is 50 with 40 damage per tick following. It reaches up to 10 meters. Obviously it's only in a line, but you can kind of control how this ends up hitting the ground, so there's a little bit of utility in it. It'll last 5 seconds just like the rest of them, putting this Void Wall grenade up in A tier. Next we have Trip Mine grenades. Trip Mine grenades are another Destiny classic, dealing 140 damage on the initial impact with 9 to 10 meters worth of explosion range. They'll last about 10 seconds before they explode on their own, which will always be when it's near you and it damages you, and this has a 1 minute and 31 second cooldown. Again, because the walls in this game can be somewhat inconsistent at times, it does bring down the utility just a bit, but the grenades are fantastic because of its burst damage potential as well as combo setting options for other weapons. It puts it up in the A tier. Next we have Swarm grenades. Swarm grenades are interesting. They deal roughly 80 damage total with a 6-meter range, each of those having about 2 meters worth of their overall searchings, so you can actually pick up just a portion of the end of the grenade. This does linger for a little bit, but it's again inconsistent, and these will last 5 seconds before going away. The default cooldown time is 1 minute and 31 seconds. However, the extreme inconsistency of these swarm grenades, as well as their generally lacking DPS, puts these all the way at D tier. Next, we have Incendiary grenades, a very spicy grenade, as these not only cause an initial impact damage of 130 or 170 if you can land it directly at a guardian's feet. This will also cause burn. The explosion radius itself is about 8 meters, but this does have a longer cooldown of 2 minutes and 1 second. The Incendiary grenade does have a pretty high skill ceiling, but unless you are good at them, they will be pretty inconsistent for you. So we've decided to put these in B tier. But again, if you're good with these could be argued to be a bit higher. On the subject of interesting grenades, we have skip grenades. Skip grenades are like swarm grenades, except they're a lot more aggressive and way more consistent. With hunters not being able to dodge out of these anymore, these are pretty good option for applying pressure. They'll deal about 100 damage to a target. They will track a target for a very long time before finally giving up, roughly 5 seconds or so, and they have a cooldown of 1 minute and 45 seconds. Skip's pressure utility cannot be overstated, putting these all the way up in A tier. And for the big Mamba Jamba, the one that everybody was interested in, Flux grenades. Flux grenades deal 250 damage. They fire like a rocket when you throw them, and they have a 4-meter, give or take, overall AoE effect. They take 2 seconds to arm, which is important to note. If you do get stuck by one of these grenades in close quarters, you can punch a target before it ends up detonating on you. A very strong grenade, but for the average player, which is what we're looking at for this, we're putting Flux grenades right below S tier in the A tier category. Only a few grenades left, and these are the Titan specific ones. We have Suppression grenades. Suppression grenades are just, man, they're suppression grenades. They're so solid. 150 damage if you can land it directly on a target, and 8-meter range overall with a 2 minute and 1 second cooldown. Suppression grenades can just remove your super outright, or it'll just deny your abilities. Makes it pretty clear why this grenade is also in S tier. Next, we have the Thermite grenade. Thermite grenades deal 79 damage per pulse. They can reach up to 20 meters. Did you know that? I didn't know that. That surprised the hell out of me. And they'll last 5 seconds. Relatively short cooldown as well at 1 minute and 45. They are somewhat easy to dodge though, as once you see the first pulse, it's going to be consistently pulsing there every single time. Puts these right in the middle of B tier. For the last of the more traditional style grenades, we have Flashbangs dealing 120 damage on their initial impact, which of course cause a blinding effect and an 8-meter radius around it. It has a shorter cooldown of 1 minute and 31 seconds. However, flash grenades require you to pretty hard commit to what they're trying to go for. Flash grenades are great, but a bit vanilla, putting these in C tier. And for the last grenade on this list, we have the lightning grenades. Lightning grenades have received a handful of different changes. These deal by default 160 damage, which is a huge point of damage. Most things will kill anything following that. Again, about 10 meters worth of range, and these will last 5 seconds by default with a slightly longer cooldown of 2 minutes and 1 second. The versatility of these things is only hampered by its inability to stick to a wall the way that you want to. Even trying to do this in a test scenario made it inconsistent, but a very solid grenade. You could do a lot worse than these, putting these up in A tier. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you're new, and leave a like if you found this helpful at all. We might do more of this. Make sure you check out Surfshark in the pinned comment and description, and as always,
this is Psycho. Bless your faces, and deuces.
These are allowed to be fired as a normal sidearm. It should only allowed to have the LMG burst and fire once every 20 seconds.
It's the primary.
Because otherwise it would be unusable.
Go off. You got this.
Dude, just 1v6, easy.
Oh, she did it, dude.
1v6 easy.